I said it a million times and I will say it again. The key to larger sized root vegetables, such as carrots, beets, potatoes, onions, garlic, is a loose and fluffy soil. But I can guarantee you that despite all the fertilizer and all the watering, your soil is your silent saboteur because it's probably compacted again. And this is completely normal and natural process of soil. It can happen because of watering. It can happen because of just gravity, but it is our job to really fluff it so that you have space for a lot of these root vegetables to grow in so you can get big ones. So when our soil is compacted, there's a number of different things that are taking place. And it doesn't just affect the root vegetables, it can affect things like tomatoes and flowers and perennials for that matter. And what happens is there is a reduction in airspace. And this reduction in airspace results in less oxygen for the roots. So shockingly enough, if you did not know, plants need oxygen and their roots specifically actually need oxygen. So without this, there is less uptake than what the plant would actually need. Now, the other thing that happens when we have collapsed pore space is there isn't enough oxygen for the microbes. Aerobic microbes, or the obligate version as well, all need oxygen to thrive and survive. And without it, they don't perform well. It goes anaerobic. So in order to encourage this, we need airspace. And again, that porosity. Now, the last reason why we want a fluffy, more porous soil comes down to water. So water penetrates the soil via the soil porosity. If your soil is heavily compacted, what will happen is you will end up with pooling water that is very slow to percolate downwards. And this percolation and the speed in which it happens or how deep it penetrates is a big determining factor, again, in how much nutrients your plants can uptake. Because the soil needs to be similar to a milkshake. It has to be a soil solution in order for plants to uptake it. If it is bone dry, the nutrients that are present in the soil cannot be uptaken. So that's when you end up with things like blossom end rot, or very obvious signs of nutrient deficiencies, such as a nitrogen deficiency, despite the fact that you are regularly fertilizing. Now, here's the obvious thing. You can't till up the garden because it's currently planted. You can't actually take a broad fork to the garden because it's currently planted. So I'm going to go through several ways in which you can get some of that aeration into the soil without removing the plants and or harming the plants in any way. So number one is actually liquid aeration. So what this is the addition of humic acid. Now, humic acid is one of those very controversial additives for soil where some of the folks actually heavily believe in it and others do not. So here's my kind of unbiased look at exactly what's going on when it comes to humic acid and aeration of the soil. So if you don't know what humic acid is, it's actually something that we reference in soil science as a very organically occurring compound that is kind of found at the interface between what we call the LFH layer and horizon A. And we don't fully understand it in the world of soil science, but we know it's really integral into the soil structure, food for microbes, the ability to retain more moisture, etc., and so forth. So now there is a commercially available version of humic acid. The issue with this is that there is not a lot of congruency throughout all of them. They have a lot of variability in what they're made of, how effective they are, etc., and so forth. And that's because, again, we don't fully understand what it is, why it exists, or 100% what it does in the soil science community. But there's some people that are trying to replicate it. Now, the idea here is that it causes aggregation. So humic acid is a negatively charged compound. And what it does is it binds chemically to the positively charged nutrients, for example, calcium, magnesium, iron. What happens when it binds with these positively charged ions is it makes an aggregate. It kind of causes all the soil to push up against each other and cause many forms of compaction. So if you've ever dug into the soil and you've noticed everything kind of comes out in blocks, well, that's aggregation. And we actually want soil to do that. Shockingly enough, we don't want it to be this really fine powder we see a lot of influencers playing with. That is not good. That means you have no soil structure, actually. So you want that aggregation to be present. The idea here is that you want different little mini aggregations, similar to like a brick building. You have all these little bricks with little rooms inside and hallways and that sort of thing. So that's what humic acid is claiming to do. For me personally, I don't know. I have used it. I actually use it because it reduces my water pH to a more acidic level because I have very alkaline water here. So that's actually the reason why I use it as an organic, very quick way to actually reduce my soil pH or my watering pH. But as to whether or not it does much for your garden, I'm not going to tell you to do it, and I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I don't know because I can't really give you a solid recommendation on a product that I know batch for batch is the same and going to perform similar. If you are desperate and you really need something to work, this could be an option that you may want to try. The next one is actually sowing cover crops. Things like buckwheat or clover are great examples of this. You can do this in raised beds and you can do this in ground. The idea here is that their root system, they have very tiny little fine roots, will actually go down and fracture the soil. So it will mechanically fracture it, of course, just due to the force of the root, but it also will fracture it due to microbial activity because of root exudates that are released. And if you just have a very fibrous root system with a lot of root, you naturally will just, of course, have more root exudate in your soil, which is essentially like McDonald's for microbes. And the microbes will move in, and this in turn will cause a lot of aggregation and aeration within your soil. Now, the key here is to make sure that you are cutting back any excessive growth that may be competing with your plants. So I did a whole video on red light versus far red light. And in that, we discussed if you have too much green, you have something called a shade avoidance response. Now, this shade avoidance response means you don't have flowers, you have very leggy plants, you have a whole lot of green. And so to be able to prevent against that while also using cover crops to fracture that soil after everything has germinated and is beginning to grow, later in the season, you may need to go through with a pair of weed whips or snips or your hands and actually cut back that cover crop. And you also don't want it to flower and then lay seed because then you're going to be dealing with that cover crop next year too, even if you don't want it. The next one is actually using a wetting agent. We'll get into, it's organic. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Then also combining it with slow, deep waterings. We're talking about things like drip irrigation or soaker hoses, for example. Now, the idea here comes from studies that have been done on volume of water or infrequency of water within more agricultural settings, but it can very easily be applied to the garden. And essentially what it says is that if you have deep waterings, meaning lots of volume that then in turn has to force a lot of water downwards just because soil can only hold so much before it just runs out the bottom, kind of similar to what it does in the pot. Well, it happens in Mother Nature as well. So if we completely saturate that soil profile, that actually encourages a lot of vertical root growth. Now, this vertical root growth means that you have roots that are digging into spaces that it normally wouldn't dig into, which in turn results in ability to catch more water and nutrients for that matter from soil that it normally wouldn't be touching. Now, the key here is that if you know the soil is incredibly dry already, you need to use a wetting agent because the wetting agent will help to counteract hydrophobic soil. So if you've ever put water on top of soil and then dug down a little bit and just saw more dry soil, that is a hydrophobic soil. And it is very common in garden soils as well as in potting soils. And it tends to get worse this time of year. So one way to counter that is with yucca extract. So yucca, if you do not know, is a plant, actually a house plant here in Canada, that will allow for the kind of the bond that's happening there between that's causing the hydrophobicity to be broken and allow for that water to properly penetrate. So even if your soil looks wet and you've been running it for a long time, it doesn't necessarily mean all portions of it are moist. And if we don't have any moisture in that area, we don't have any roots that go to that area. And if we don't have any roots that go to that area, we don't have any root exudates. If we don't have root exudates, we don't have any microbes. And that means compacted soil in very specific clumps or spots, which we do not want. So in order to counter that, we use yucca plant combined with the deep watering that then will cause the entire flooding of the system and very even water penetration throughout the entire profile. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of this one, but it's called glomalin. It's just a very fancy word for root glue or microbe glue, I guess, technically. Now, these soil glues cause, again, that aggregation we're speaking of, and it's actually caused by really high levels or just even moderate levels of microbe activity. It's kind of their waste being left behind in some capacity that then causes the soil to kind of get glued together, but in a good way. So in order to increase this mid-season, we want to make sure the moisture is there, but we also want to make sure the food is there. And more specifically, we want to make sure that there is carbon, organics present. And that means topping off your gardens with some form of compost, worm castings, manures, literally anything that's not peat moss, coconut coir, or leaf mold, for the most part, will help to increase this. You could also use like an inoculant of some sort, but that one I wouldn't recommend as much. Is just feeding what's already present. Because trust me, there's a lot of microbes just in your soil as it sits. Now, the way that you can really heavily cheat on this is actually mechanical fluffing. Now, you have to be very careful with this. And I will pre-warn you that if you disrupt the roots or cause any harm to the roots, you are going to have negative effects. So please be careful. Number one is with things like garlic or onions, you want to spoon, which is essentially removing the soil around the onion bulb and quite literally exposing it to bare air and no soil at all. The other option for things like potatoes, as an example, or carrots or beets, would be to go away from the plants, but with some form of a pitchfork or broad fork and doing a tiny little lift. You're going to hear a little bit of popping. A little bit of popping is fine. We don't want to rip it right out of the ground. We want to give it a little pop. When we hear the first set of poppings, that's when we back off. That actually helps enormously. And if you followed my method for growing potatoes, which some Geek Crew members have, and one of you actually messaged me and he had mentioned he'd never grown potatoes that big, let alone purple potatoes that big. What can I say? Turns out I know what I'm talking about. But if you followed that method, then what you would want to do is just actually stick your hands in and just kind of fluff it up nicely, because you would have that mound that should still be relatively fluffy that you should be able to get your hands into. If you can't get your hands into it, it's compacted too much. So then you do want to get your hands into it. And again, just a tiny little lift mechanically, and you should be fine. Do not do this with anything that has a fibrous root system or just a natural tap root system. I'm not referencing carrots and beets so much, but I am referencing things like tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers. Do not do it to gardens like that. But anything that's a root veg, yes, it can make a huge difference. Even if you're just popping the soil that is not even in the row of carrots, but is outside of the row of carrots, that's kind of like teeth in your mouth. That little bit of airspace you caused this way will allow for the soil to kind of push out. It's because the soil, while it looks hard and compacted and very like set in space, it's very mobile. It's always kind of moving and adjusting based on hydrology and mechanical manipulation, people walking across it, animals, that sort of thing. But Geek Crew, you have to let me know in the comments down below if you believe your soil is officially compacted here in August, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.